Hey, welcome back to the podcast, Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin. These are my friends, Patrick Hines.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, and Dwayne LaFlotte.
Hello, hello.
Hey, and by now people should know what we're all about. If not, go back and listen to episode 1. So I'm going to start with what happened this week.
Stuff and things.
Stuff and things.
So that the security world is always ramping up to all sorts of amazing heights. Next week, I believe Black Hat is happening. So you see all sorts of crazy stuff coming
Black
up.
Hat is a conference?
Black Hat is a conference. Black Hat and DEF CON are the primary security hackery conferences where all sorts of new exploits and tools get released. I think there's like 10 or 15 new tools getting released next week.
Wow.
So there'll be a lot of interesting things to talk about.
The conferences are different flavors, though.
Okay.
They're slightly different.
Raspberry and chocolate.
You know, the most exciting thing that happened to me this week
What's that?
was I saw an ad for a Star Trek game on Facebook that included Jonathan Frakes or Will Riker and Brent Spiner, Data, and of course, LeVar Burton, Geordie LaForge.
Nice.
And it's all current in there. It's really funny. It opens up with Riker in his ship shooting the Enterprise. And some random lady just says, "Did one of you guys just fire on me?" And Data goes, "I thought the cloaking device was engaged." and then Riker says, "Yeah, LeVar was supposed to have that fixed." And LeVar takes off like a welding helmet, and he says, "Guys, I didn't hear the news that it was broken." And they all just kind of like, "Sorry."
So is it a real-time space combat game or what?
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Awesome.
But it was like the best ad I've ever seen. You know, mostly because of the characters, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta love those characters.
So we were talking about how these websites listen in on your conversations. You know, all they had to do was listen while I was watching Star Trek to know that I wanted to see that ad. So
you'll start seeing it.
Yeah, in some ways it's a good thing. You don't need to worry about searching for things anymore. It just shows up.
They just show up.
Yeah, it's
what could go wrong?
Right.
Well, so Dwayne and I were just talking about the NSA guidance for getting your phone secure.
Yeah, it's super complicated. If you believe that your phone has been spied on in some way or running malware or whatever, could be. The expert advice is to once a week reboot your phone.
Also, the default advice to fix your Windows system.
Now,
and if you can't print.
Have you shut it off and turned it on again?
So this is the advice from the organization that is accused of allowing backdoors in phones and televisions and operating systems.
Yeah, but they're good guys now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, just reboot it. It's fine.
I mean, they're testifying to Congress. They're right. When we've done done forays into mobile hacking and mobile persistence, it's really difficult, especially on an iPhone, to keep persistence in between reboots.
Well, you guys know about the iPhone switch to turn off tracking, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I believe it's in privacy in the menu in settings. And if you go down there, there's allow websites to track you or something like that, and it's on by default, and you can turn it off.
That's another aspect. That what we're talking about is somebody actually gets a memory resident malware on your phone. So let's say that you leave your phone on your desk and you step away and go to the bathroom and you don't bring the phone, or you step out to go grab something at the car or something. If someone were to grab your phone, they could connect it to it. And maybe, depending on what version you're running and where we are in the attack chain and a whole bunch of things, but there's potential for someone to put something on your device.
Wow. You know, most guys live with their wife and cats. I don't know. The cats might be suspect.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Shifty.
Yeah. So that's good news. Reboot your phone.
Yeah.
It's not bad hygiene. It's good hygiene.
It is good practice.
Yeah.
I turn it off when we're doing podcasts, so that is effectively rebooting.
I shut my computers off when I'm not using them.
Mine's off right now. What was this? What was this aerobic instructor hack?
So I was going to say, coming back to Facebook, because Facebook has been aggressively trying to shut down catfishing sites, hacker groups. So
wait, what's a catfishing site? I know what
unpack that a little
I know
bit.
what phishing is. PHISHING. Getting somebody to click on a link. What's a catfishing site?
So in short, catfishing is you pretending to be someone or something you're not on the internet and trying to con someone into doing something.
So it's a social engineering thing.
So it's like every 18-year-old girl on the internet is actually a 44-year-old truck driver named Pearl.
Oh, man.
Now we just lost that demographic.
Oh, yeah. That's my neighbor.
So the Iranian cyber espionage group, dubbed Tortoise Shell, had put together a bunch of Facebook groups. One of them was they were posing as aerobics instructors for years.
For years?
To target aerospace employees.
Okay. Whoa.
So can I?
First of all, wait, no. First of all, the obvious question: how does one pose as an aerobic instructor if one is not an aerobic instructor? Don't you have to move and instruct?
Question. You would think so. Maybe it's just advice.
Maybe.
Part of this manipulation was actually sending out an Excel document that had food habits and things you should do for better health, and in the background were some pretty advanced macros to exfil all sorts of data. Yeah.
Now that I haven't written Excel macros in a while, but I thought they were discoverable. Can you hide them?
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of fun things you can do with macros to keep them out of the limelight. Now, obviously, anything you open is going to say, hey, do you want to enable macros for the most part? Office is really good about saying, hey, this is in read-only mode. If you want to enable it to edit, you need to do that first.
Yeah.
And then if you want to see the macros, you do. But if I'm posing as a dietitian or an aerobics instructor and I say, hey, you're going to type in your calories here.
Right.
And then you're going to click calculate, and I'm going to tell you what types of foods you should eat.
Right.
Oh, yeah, by the way, you got to turn on macros.
Right.
Well, now that you trust me, you're going to turn on macros, and you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with macros on.
So it goes back to what, 2019? That's how long this...
it's these groups have been around for a while. I think Facebook said they identified under 200 groups
190
that they had shut down.
Wow.
Not so many, under 200 groups. So kudos to Facebook for trying to find these groups and shut them down, which is good.
Guys, should we just give up? Should we screw this podcast? Just cut off your hands, live in a box, and
never trust anybody.
Never trust anybody, and phasers on, stun, Kirk out.
No. Yeah. So let me take this one. So I believe that when historians look back on this 5-year, 10-year period, they're going to say, it's funny that they didn't realize the first cyber war had actually started by this time. I think that we're in the middle of what we would call the first cyber war.
I believe you're right.
And I think what's happening is the U.S. government is participating in the U.S. cyber war to defend government assets, but there's not enough shelter for the civilian population in the shelters.
Wow.
And governments like Russia and China are their whole economies are participating in this. They have privateers. They have, sponsored attacks. They have, the quiet acceptance of as long as you don't attack a Russian business, then you're not going to get arrested.
Yeah.
And we're not playing by the same rules. And so,
who even puts those rules out?
Well, we're trying to fight a fair fight, and everyone else is trying to win and cheat as best they can.
Okay, but we're not really trying to fight a fair fight, are we? Come on.
Well,
you really think that's true?
Well, I think at the government level, maybe not, but the businesses, the people we're talking about, the people we're talking to are kind of left to their own devices.
Well, that's true.
In China and Russia, you don't have a choice. The government's going to be in your network if they want to be on your network.
Yeah.
In the United States, if you went to any major bank and said, hey, the government's going to get on your network and help you secure it, they'd be like, no, thank you.
Right.
Because we have a different model. And I think that means that we're kind of on our own to defend, and it's becoming a real shooting war. I mean, the fact is they're attacking things that 5-10 years ago would have been unthinkable for them to be attacked because you'd be afraid a tomahawk would land in your backyard.
And speaking of tomahawks landing in your backyard, I was listening to NPR today, and somebody from a military branch that was about future technology.
Futures Command?
Futures Command, that's what it was talking about AI and the challenges of having systems that need to determine in a split second, what is that? Is it a threat? Should we take it down? You know, if there are people in it or not, is it a missile? Is it, whatever. It was just a fascinating story, but it's sort of, it sort of reminded me of the Star Wars movies that came out, the prequels, where you have all the robots fighting the wars, and the Jedis are just walking through a sea of robots, slashing them. And are we coming to that? I mean,
botnets. We're already there. Some aspects of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, with drones, we're definitely there.
Swarm technologies with drones, and what can you do with what's the heaviest load a drone can do? The next battles. It's hard to predict the next kinetic battle, battle that's going to involve tanks and planes and aircraft carriers. But right. I firmly believe, I've said it before, I'll say it again, that the cyber war, if you were going to define warfare, we're in it now. The only difference is the governments aren't actually taking down each other's military networks yet.
Right.
They're positioning so that they're able to. That's what they're trying to do.
But that's what, from a security standpoint, that it really got me thinking about, well, if the robots and the AI are doing all of our work for us, we're just completely adding new attack vectors that not only will, people will be able to steal information, countries and bad actors, but they'll be able to, turn them on us. I mean, the dangers that we're going to be exposed to, though the threat levels are going to rise exponentially, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, if you take a look at automated driving cars.
Yeah, that's true.
Like the big threat right now, or perceived threat by the public, is some rando hacker is going to get into my car and drive it at 1 billion miles an hour off a cliff.
Right.
Now, all the automation of cars I've seen today, they've done a really good job of protecting them, but that doesn't mean in 5 years, somebody doesn't find an exploit.
Right.
So
let me state something and see if Dwayne backs it up. Cause based on what I'm seeing, my experience is, it is actually getting harder to hack when something is actually hardened. So one of the things that you hear about a lot is, well, this got hacked and this got hacked and this got hacked. But if there's a patch for it, there's more organizations out there that have already patched against it that aren't going to get hacked than the ones that are too lazy, too disorganized, or just too clueless to patch themselves. Or they're using old technology and they don't want to spend the money to rebuild the technology for the modern operating systems.
Yeah.
Or they've done something lazy and stupid. They're using default passwords on hardware. I'm not blaming the victim here. It sounds like I am. I feel like I am a little bit. But what it really means is that we have the tools to stop 99% of these threats. And if you take a look at the iPhone's a really good vector because Apple's done a really good job of trying to lock down that platform. The last permissive iPhone threat at the system level required them to stitch together 7 different vulnerabilities. It's rare, it happens, but it's rare for there to be a single vulnerability that just gives you total control over an iPhone.
Yeah.
Right. And take, for example, the Wi-Fi daemon exploit on iPhone.
Yeah.
So that right now
that's new.
That's a new one. And it's think someone creates a Wi-Fi network near you, and instead of using, Starbucks is the name of the Wi-Fi,
right,
they use Unicode characters that can't be displayed.
Wow.
And there's certain special characters you need to use, but they string together the name of this Wi-Fi as a bunch of Unicode characters. And initially what would happen is your iPhone would see it, and then at that point your iPhone wouldn't be able to connect to Wi-Fi. It would in essence crash. And
wow,
even rebooting your phone in a lot of times wouldn't fix it. And then some enterprising researcher took that, realizing it was a crash, and actually turned it into what's called an RCE, which is a remote code execution, which means literally walking by this Wi-Fi access point.
Reading the name.
They could run code on your iPhone. Now that sounds super scary, right? Apple released a patch to fix it relatively quickly. B, the ability to run code was super flaky. Like it happened 1 out of a million times.
Well,
because they were doing memory sprays and all sorts of other stuff.
And how big of a program could you run? It was probably limited to like 100 bytes or something like that.
And it was even like you'd have to sit there with your phone for like 4 or 5 hours before you maybe even potentially get the exploit. So there's a lot of things that are sensationalized, and it comes back to what Patrick's talking about. Like, if you patch, like Apple has patches for these things. If you make sure that you patch your Windows Station, make sure you patch your iPhone.
Shut your phone off every week.
Shut off your phone every week, according to the NSA.
Wash your hands.
You're doing better than probably 60-70% of the population. I mean, my PCs patch automatically all the time. I never, like, it used to be in the old days. We're the three of us are relatively old people.
Yeah.
In the old days.
He subscribes to a service from North Korea that patches it for him.
Oh, that's good. There's some pretty high quality stuff coming out of there, but I don't know if you want to patch with it. But it used to be like you'd avoid applying patches in production because you didn't know if it was going to blue screen your system. So you waited until you could test it, and then you put it in a lab, and then you made sure everything worked. And at that point, that's causing more risk than just going out and applying the patch.
Yeah, with backups. You have backups.
Right. Yeah.
Make sure the backups worked, apply the patch.
Yep.
Huh.
Actually, what most people were doing is they were just waiting 3 weeks, and if there wasn't a headline about it, they'd patch.
if a lot of people didn't complain about blue screens. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's our biggest advice to a lot of our customers is honestly, what's your patch schedule? What's your, how are you making sure that all of your devices are on the latest and greatest thing? Because the first thing I'm going to do as a hacker is I'm going to look at what you're running and see if it's older versions and try and exploit.
And quite frankly, a lot of the hacks that you're hearing about are supply chain. You're being hacked through some trusted entity like Kaseya or SolarWinds or something like that. And, the reason they got 1,000 organizations is because they got one piece of software that's in use in 1,000 organizations.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think we're going to see a lot more focus on getting security and code reviews of vendors before that's allowed on other people's networks.
Hey guys, I want to bring up a website here at the Hacker News that just came out today, the 29th of July, as we record this. Top 30 critical security vulnerabilities most exploited by hackers. So if you're really interested in stuff and you read, then you might be interested in this article. And you guys probably have seen these as well.
The lost art of reading. Some of these are like the Exchange server hacks,
right?
Like the proxy logon, which caused a big stir. All these have big names. Some of these have big names that you'd recognize, and some of them are a little more esoteric, like the Exchange vulnerability for memory corruption. The big IP. If you're not running F5 big IP, no one cared about that, but if you did, it was big. Fortinet.
Windows Background Intelligent Transfer Service, or BITS. Elevation of privileges vulnerability.
I love bits.
I used to love bits.
Not only can you use bits to elevate privileges, you can use bits to get your custom written malware to download on the box in relatively.
And they really elevate a wedge salad too.
Like a little bit of bits in there.
Got to put some bits on that.
But coming back to your top vulnerabilities, I mean, a lot of those, whether it's the F5 big IP remote code execution, whether it's the Fortinet, Citrix, Microsoft, Drupal.
That's supply chain.
But all of those RCEs and privilege esques were mitigated by patches.
Privilege esques. All right. You heard it here. This is the jargon. You're going to get it. Privilege escalation.
Escalation.
For short. Priv-esque.
Priv-esque.
Yes. Yeah, that's what you look for. You get on a box as low priv, you priv-esque, and then you laterally move.
Living with my wife, I'm pretty low priv as is. So
there's no priv-esque there?
No priv-esque. No esque at all, actually. It's a priv-esque.
You're in a least privilege model. Good for you. That's more people should operate that way.
I mean, privilege escalation assumes access. It doesn't always give you access.
Right.
So you actually already have to be on the system at some capacity before you can have leverage Privest. So sometimes people will say, if you have a certain product in your house, then a murderer could use it to kill you. Yeah, it's called a knife. It's in my kitchen drawer. Right. But that means this still doesn't mean that the murderer suddenly teleported into my house because I happen to have this thing. So you have to think about when you see these sensational headlines, whether it's a remote access, enabling, or whether it's a threat from somebody who already has access.
Speaking of iPhones and iPads, there was a flaw that came out, a 0-day flaw with iOS devices and Mac OS, and that just came out a couple days ago. What do you know about that?
You're talking about the Pegasus software, where they're basically the spyware.
It was fixing a memory corruption issue.
Yeah, NSO Group is a company out of Israel, and they have a software package called Pegasus that basically is used by countries who like to know what their people are doing.
Okay.
Inquiring minds want to know.
All right.
Stitching together, I think, is 13 0-day vulnerabilities. So
13,
which on the open market's worth a fortune.
And as
I'm
you
sure
said,
on the closed market's worth a fortune too.
And you said this last week that a 0-day bug is one that's
not known.
Unknown. Yeah, 0-day means a new update just came out. And
No, a 0-day means it's unknown. It is not known and published, so therefore there is no patch for it.
Oh, okay.
So on day 0,
we just learned about it.
Still doesn't know about it. Yeah, I mean, technically, when we talk about a 0-day, it's a 0-day until somebody finds out about it, and then it starts. Then the race is on for them to patch it, and it has a limited lifetime.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, take things like the privilege escalation or Privesk. With sudo edit recently, which is a Linux utility where you can go from, a non-privileged user to a privileged user by executing one command.
Now, sudo is not like phony PSE, but it's SUDO,
No.
which I believe is an acronym, isn't it?
Super user do.
Yeah, it's telling the computer that you want to run something not as a normal user, but as an escalated privileged user.
Right.
Run as admin.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in the Linux world, run as admin. And there was a bug that existed in edit where you could formulate your command line parameter. And it just so happened there was a path that you could formulate your parameters in such a way that you would get that to run, even though you didn't have the privileges to use it.
Scary.
Now, that was considered a 0-day because it wasn't something that was patched. And it wasn't something that was fixed, but it was something that did allow people to escalate to privileged user without having the ability to do that. Which is nice.
Yeah, until the good guys find out about something, it's a 0-day. And the way to think about this is if you're a hacker and you figured out a 0-day, you could use it until it got discovered. You could make a fortune, or you could sell it on the market. I think the last 0-day that I saw up at auction was $2 million for a 0-day for Apple.
Wow.
Yeah. And they, honestly, there are brokers out there that will buy the 0-day from you. Legitimate brokers, not like dark web, selling human beings brokers, but like legitimate brokers where you can sell a 0-day to. And they will hopefully legitimately then go and disclose it.
Yeah. Wishful thinking, I think.
Probably. I like to think everybody's on the up and up. And actually, there's a lot of fantastic researchers out there that are doing some really good work in discovering these bugs.
Yeah, but they're not selling them.
No. I mean, there's we'll have to put a link to this guy, but there's a guy on YouTube, Live Overflow, who's awesome. He sits down and he'll go through some of these things like sudo edit, and he'll explain how did the researcher find this, and he goes through the process of explaining like how would you find this 0-day, which is very cool. Let
me give a very, very abbreviated version of this, just so people can kind of get their arms around it. And Dwayne will correct me if I misspeak. When you find a way to crash a system by giving it the wrong data, like the Wi-Fi access point name that Dwayne was talking about, when you basically get the computer to say does not compute, error, die, crash, fail.
Yeah.
When you do that, if you pass enough information in with that thing that killed it, you can jump in memory to a place of execution and hand it something that it will then execute. And so you can you can basically commandeer the execution path.
Wow.
And get the computer to do something it was never meant to do in that context. And that's where you do a buffer overrun and you basically control the flow of the program. But there's lots of limitations. There's lots of, there's lots of roadblocks. There's lots of ways it can go wrong, like Dwayne was talking about before.
Yeah.
But that's basically what we're talking about.
So just to clear up a couple of things, that one thing you just mentioned was a buffer overrun, and I don't think we actually explained what that is. Mm-hmm. So let me try to explain this for non-techie people.
Please.
So your computer obviously uses memory, and it uses memory to store everything. And if you're looking at a website, right, like the Hacker News, the characters that you can, in the text that you can copy and paste, right? Each one of those characters represents 8 bits, right? So, and that's because 8 bits it represents 0 through 255, right? Yep. And that's more than enough to represent all the letters of the alphabet, uppercase, lowercase, in fact, all the printable characters and some non-printable characters. So they're 8 bits, right? So let's say you have the word Australia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 characters. So you're going to need 9 bytes, or a byte is 8 bits, 9 bytes of data in memory, all in the same place to represent that
value.
That value. We call it a string.
Yeah.
Because it's a string of characters. So there's a buffer somewhere, and if that buffer isn't protected by the system, then some other program would be able to come in and write over it. And it's not so bad if Australia suddenly turns to zebra, fox, or whatever. But it's bad because code also exists in memory. And you have, the code that executes, that shows these websites or whatever. And you've got a program that is in a buffer, in a long string of bytes somewhere. And if it isn't protected, then malicious hackers can write over that. If they write through a buffer and go past it, which you can do past the end, let's say the buffer is 10 characters, and somebody is allowed to write in that memory location, 50 bytes. Now those extra 40 bytes,
they're in a different location in the memory stack.
A different location in memory, and that's when you get memory corruption. It's called a buffer overrun.
And that's how you take control of the program, the process execution.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's a way a lot of these things work. Is if you take in data, you don't handle the what if scenarios of, well, what if they type 500 A's instead of the word Australia?
Right.
In other words, what if they do what I don't expect?
Right.
And a lot of times that's exactly what hacking is trying to do something that was not expected by the designers of the system.
Yeah. When you said last week that you and your guys feel stupid every day, this is why.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many threats, and there's so many ways that people get creative with how to.
I don't, because I'm a sociopath, but that's a different
story. Yes, me and my team feel stupid every day because you're right. It moves so fast, and there's so much out there to know. And there's so many teams competing. Like you talk about buffer overruns, right? And you go, okay, well, what are you putting? Well, the buffer that you just entered is going on the stack, and you got the stack and you got the heap, right? So. Okay, what if I put code there? Well, Microsoft and other players say, oh, you know what? We'll make the stack not executable. You can't put executable code on the stack. That'll thwart them. And then the hackers go, okay, well, we'll just then jump to the heap and start executing.
So first of all, you're talking way over everybody's head here. The stack and the heap are 2 areas of memory. One is for stuff that's transient, the stack. Variables that you create, and then at the end of your routine, they go away. The heap is the shared area of memory that an application has code and variables that are accessible by any other method.
Yeah, and it gives you the data on the stack. Usually is where your program is going to be executing. So you're not going to be executing your program out of the heap.
Right.
So if I load up a program, there's going to be a certain portion of the stack that's marked as executable, and that's going to be typically kind of immutable, if you will, unchangeable.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be able to inject a buffer into there. Where I could inject a buffer, maybe it's held onto the stack. But that part of the stack is going to be marked as not executable. So I wouldn't be able to do nefarious things there.
Think of them as, in a very crude analogy, think of a school board meeting. And in a school board meeting, you've got the minutes of the meeting, which is the stack, and you've got the bulletin board, which is the heap, which is anybody can put anything on the bulletin board. Right. But the stack is harder to kind of muscle your way into.
And the stack is where all the code is executing.
Right.
Correct.
But if you can get something from the heap and use that to infiltrate the stack, that's the gyrations of hacking that we're talking about.
Right. Or if in your school board meeting example, the next thing on your agenda that you're going to look at is something on the bulletin board, where you say, okay, we're going to look at the third item on the bulletin board, and somebody was able to then change what that third item is, then you get control over that meeting or the program or whatever.
That makes sense.
So there's constant mitigations going back and forth where, the hackers try something that nobody ever thought about. And then, there's implementation of DEP or ASLR, or there's all these mitigations.
Which
I won't go
alphabet
into.
soup, we don't really know what that means, but it doesn't matter, right?
But all of them are around, well, you assume you know where things are running in memory. How about I shift things in memory so you have no idea where they are? And then the hackers go, well, I'll just ask, right? So it's interesting.
It's a game of cat and mouse.
It is. Like, at one point Microsoft goes, we're going to mark the stack as non-executable. And the hackers go, okay, I'm going to go to the place where you mark it as executable, and I'm going to run that first.
So Dwayne goes so deep into this. There's a thing called ROP chaining where you can't actually give any data, but you just use things on the computer and you build a program byte by byte out of DLLs that are already on the computer.
DLLs meaning code,
dynamic link libraries, code
files,
code files that are already on the computer. And you grab a byte there and a bit there.
Right. So you grab small pieces. I need a little jump EX here, and I need a little of this, and I need a little of that, and you stitch them together to get multiple pieces of code in memory to do what you want it to do, almost if they're running together.
Right. And because the system DLLs, these little pieces of Windows, let's say, are static, they don't change. So the hacker can count on the byte at, offset 1421 or whatever being an S.
And it's almost like when the aliens take over your radio in your car to send you a message, where they change the channel for every word.
Dude, how did you find out about that? I didn't tell anybody about that.
I'm from a galaxy far, far away.
I believe
New Hampshire.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right.
But that's a good analogy. That's a good analogy.
So what's becoming obvious to me is that hacking and protecting against hacking is as much of a psychological issue as it, and a human exploit issue as it is a technical exploit issue. Look at that aerobics instructor.
Very
hacker.
much so. Yeah.
I mean, that we talk about social engineering. That's it. They had this long campaign to get people to trust them so that they would, click on the button in Excel that would allow their bad code to run. And it took years to do it.
Imagine how dangerous the world would be if every person with content in their heart had access to you physically. You'd be dead in moments.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people who would like to see any one of us dead immediately. But the distance of the world protects us.
Yeah.
In cyber, that distance is shrunk.
Well, it's non-existent, really.
It is, but there's still, the anonymity. Oh, that's a good word. Anonymity of the crowd. But it's still not enough to protect us. So we have to take what I like to say is people who make it to the age of maturity have survived a lot of things. They knew when to put the brakes on. They knew when not to step out on the street. They knew when to get out of the woods if they heard a bear or something rustling in the bushes. Right. They've dodged a lot of physical world threats, and the technical world threats are just as dangerous in some ways. But people are more mystified by like what it takes to be safe in this world. And shutting your phone off once a week is one of those things that should become a habit for everybody. It's low cost.
Yeah.
We just have to build better habits.
Well, and you also have to be wary of who you talk to on the internet. I mean, that's a basic thing, but
don't talk to strangers.
Don't listen to this podcast.
Well, you can talk to strangers. Strangers are fantastic. I love fantastic strangers. But the thing is, a lot of times these really what look like super sophisticated hacks into really big companies are literally somebody got a job there. Like the $10 million worth of Xbox codes that was stolen. Literally the guy who stole them worked there. So
wow. Yeah.
It wasn't this massive hack.
And it's even better than that. He was hired to find such vulnerabilities and he just didn't report one. Instead, he leveraged it.
Exactly. Right. So, it still comes down to the human factor and who you trust with the secret sauce.
We used to say in early versions of .NET Rocks that security starts with locking the door where the computers are. Right? I mean, because those are the softest targets, aren't they?
The physical possession equals ownage.
Yeah.
Pwnage.
I was actually literally just reading an article today about someone who stripped off the BitLocker. So for people who may not use BitLocker is the ability to do encrypted EFS type file system where you can encrypt data. Right?
At-rest encryption for Windows.
At-rest encryption for Windows.
At-rest meaning files on your Windows system are encrypted. But hey, wait a minute. You said yesterday there was no way to encrypt files built into Windows because of the ransomware stuff.
Yes. So if Microsoft is encrypting it,
okay,
and you turn it on, they will encrypt the entire drive. And what they'll do is they'll use a key that's in a special chip that sits on your computer that nobody should be able to access. Okay. And that chip will then decrypt the drive on boot. Well, so there was a guy who now attached a logic analyzer to that chip and read the data as it was spitting out and was able to unlock the drive. So
you have physical access.
Right. So when you have physical access, there's all sorts of crazy stuff you can do no matter what protections you put on there.
I was teaching a class back in the Microsoft certified training days, and I think I was teaching a SQL Server class, and a guy got a phone call and he jumped up and left. And I didn't see him again for 3 days. It was a 5-day course. Yeah. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, well,
was the lecture that bad?
It was that bad. Yes, it was. But he said, someone broke the windows on our server room and stole 17 servers.
Wow.
And I'm like, why did you have windows on your server room? Right. He says, well, it was on the second floor. So they got a ladder. They climbed the ladder. They broke the window. They crawled in and they lowered 17 servers. They stole 17 servers from this big company.
That's crazy.
Needless to say, lock the door where your servers are and don't have any windows there.
Yeah, Windows is probably bad too. Well, not Windows, the operating system. It's fantastic.
So speaking of, security and locks and all that stuff, home security, I have been afraid to put in like Nest thermostats and doorbells that are connected to the internet with cameras and stuff.
Guest networks are your friends if you're going to go down that road.
What'd you say?
100% agree. Yeah.
A guest network is your friend if you're going to go down that road.
What's a guest network?
So take something like a Google Mesh.
What's a Google Mesh?
Okay. So so let's say you put in a wireless access point of your house.
Okay, Wi-Fi.
Right? You put in Wi-Fi. Okay. A type of Wi-Fi is a mesh network where you have a node in,
from
2 or 3 of your rooms.
Oh, yeah.
There's Google, there's Arrow, there's a bunch of them out there. I use the Google one.
Okay.
So I put Google in my house and it gives you the ability to offer 2 networks. So you can offer one network, which is your home sort of private network with a long password. Hopefully that's not in a list.
Yep.
And then you can offer a guest Wi-Fi where you can put a simpler password, that sort of stuff. It could be a complicated password and you can share it through like sharing of contact and touching your phone and that sort of stuff without actually having to share the password.
I get it. So the guest, the guest doesn't know anything about the other network, which all your computers are connected to.
Exactly. Right. So I'll take all my Ring doorbells and cameras and my Nest and all of it goes on the guest network.
I see.
Frankly, I don't care what happens there.
My guest network's got a 10 character password, whereas my other password is more than 20 characters.
I see.
Yeah, and like TVs I have will go on the guest network. It just needs internet access. It doesn't need access to my computers at that house, typically.
Yeah, that's very smart.
Yeah, that is the way to go.
It's the little things. It's those little,
honestly.
And quite frankly, I think this newer generation, the younger generation, the under 30s, under 40s, they're ready to adopt 50 of these little practices no problem. It's the older generation that's going to have a problem with it and is going to be throwing their hands up and saying, well, why do I have to do this
What
now?
the hell is a mesh network? Get off my lawn.
That's usually my line. Get off.
We Gen Xers. I don't think, is Dwayne a Gen Xer? I don't think you are.
I don't know.
I don't know what Gen I am.
I think you're a little younger than us, Gen. Right?
Well, I think Carl and I are safely.
We're we're
Xers.
Like in the last.
Well, they say that if Kennedy was alive when you were born, you're a baby boomer, and if he wasn't, then you're a Gen Xer.
Well, or a Gen Y or a Gen Z or a millennial, right?
Well, yes. I'm just saying around that time. But
I think 67 was the cutoff year for being a Gen Xer. So if you're born in 67 or before.
I'm definitely not born in 67.
No.
Yeah.
77.
See, this is us 67. Just trying to social engineer Dwayne's
you've done a great job.
That's right.
Out of him.
I won't tell you my date of birth, but my twin brother's is 77.
Yeah, but you posted it on Facebook, so everybody knows.
Yeah, so everybody knows, including aerobics instructors from Iran.
Well, guys,
I typically don't publish my actual date of birth. I just lie.
Right. Yeah, that reminds me. Do you remember like password hints? And I say remember because sometimes you see banks and trading companies with password hints, but just answer every question chocolate, or whatever.
Yeah.
Just
one password.
Now I can't use chocolate, but you're right. That is a fantastic way to go.
If they allow you to, sometimes they don't.
So
I've tried.
That would be a fantastic Mad Lib.
Where were you born? Chocolate.
Yeah. And then she stepped in a big chocolate of chocolate. Well, guys, this has been a great episode, and I always learn a lot, and we hope that the listeners have too. So thank you, Dwayne.
Thank you, Carl.
All right. Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Carl. Good talking to you.
All right. We'll see you next time on Security This Week.